this is part 2 of title and escrow questions. So again, today I have Donna and I have Rachel, and we're here to answer those questions, those really great questions regarding purchasing a home.
Yes.
So the first one, if a client wants to add their child to title, could we run into any problems with that?
We can if the child is considered a minor, and in Nevada, a minor is under 18 years old. So you could add the child onto title. Acquiring title is the easy part. It's when you go to sell or refinance is where you're coming up with the challenges, because in the state of Nevada, a minor cannot sign or divest their interests in real property, of which at that point, if you do have a child on title that is under the age of 18, you could go ahead and set up a guardianship for that child and sign on behalf of the child. But of course, there's expenses that are involved in that as well. So you might want to discuss, perhaps, if you're looking for the benefit of the child, and that's usually what the situation is when you're talking to the homeowner. They wanted to make sure that in the event something has happened to them, that the child gets the property or is awarded the property. And you could do it one of two ways, but perhaps the most simplified way is discussing setting up a trust account or a trust for the property, as well as the child as well, because the trust also covers personal situations, medical situations on top of real estate.
Let's say someone owes back child support. How could that affect them in purchasing a new home?
When you have a escrow and they're having a loan, that is a purchase money deed of trust. So in Nevada anyway, it would be, we would make sure that they're current, but we wouldn't have to collect anything. The same thing with an IRS lien. So we would just show it on your buyer's policy, but not show it on the lender's policy. But if in fact that person went to go sell that home, the buyer went to go sell the home, they would have to bring it current.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's good just to let the title and escrow officer know that there might possibly be
Always, yeah.
What are one of the steps that you take when you first open an escrow with a buyer? Is there a specific document that you have them fill out to gather information?
No, we usually, again, we make that phone call, make contact with them, and get their phone numbers. Well, actually, most real estate agents will give us the emails and their phone numbers, because they will want us to wire. They'll want to wire their earnest money deposit in, and so we have to have that information at that time. So we just call and introduce ourselves and say that be looking for an email coming secured for your wiring instructions.
Now, I'm kind of skipping around a little bit, but let's touch a little bit on earnest money. I think that's a really important topic, because I don't think a lot of people realize that once you go into contract, you immediately want to deposit this earnest money, the good faith money, to open escrow. So what are the best tips when it comes to that?
For earnest money deposit, well, it's the earnest money deposit, it's the act of good faith that the buyer provides that's going to secure the offer. And the fastest and quickest way is to go ahead and wire the earnest money deposit. There are some title companies, and we're in the process of getting approved as well, as depositing through the mobile app. And that seems to be the easiest for a lot of folks. Secondly, we could do a wire, and that's why we like to contact the buyer, because again, we like to make that emotional connection. There's a lot of fraud that still basically goes on right now, and so we want them to meet us, hear our voices, get to know us, and we could walk them through the steps of wiring the earnest money deposit. And we want to make sure that it gets wired, not a bank-to-bank transfer, because a lot of times those will get rejected. And in the state of Nevada, the contracts or offers are generally listed that they want the earnest money deposit within our escrow account within 24 business hours. And if you do write a personal check, The misconception is that it appears that we hold that check in escrow, but that's not the case. We physically cash the check. So we've run into instances like that as well. So the best thing that we do, and we offer advice, is once we go into escrow, we like to make that emotional connection, that physical phone call with the buyer immediately, if not sooner, as soon as we receive the contract. So it's super important that we receive their information, whether they prefer email or phone or text, and if it's not specified in the opening email from the real estate partner, we do all three, and we ask them.
Now, what are some discounts available for a home buyer once they open escrow?
We have all kinds of
Yeah.
discounts. We have a first responder. We have a military discount. We have a senior citizen discount. First time home buyer. We do have an investor discount. Yes.
So,
Yes.
so the best way to find out if you can qualify for those is just to ask, right?
Right.
Yeah.
They do have to ask for discounts.
How many people can be involved in a transaction?
As far as I know, I mean, unless the lender has provisions, I mean, we were just talking about this actually, and it's endless. I mean, we had one family, it was customary in their family to help each family member in it. So there was about 17 people. So it was a board of directors kind of signing day. So if you do have multiple buyers, it's always let us know ahead of time, because it's going to take a little bit of more effort to get everybody signed up and executed, especially if they're not all local in one town.
Right. What are some delays that a buyer might see, or what are, if there are delays in a transaction, what a buyer might see on their settlement statement?
Well, the prorations are going to be different. We may have to collect another set of HOA payments, another set of maybe a tax payment. So it could change quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So we would send out a new statement so the buyer would know what they're up against. Yeah.
So it's best to make sure everything's turned in on time.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we communicate very thoroughly throughout the transaction to maintain that closing date.
That's
Yes,
right.
absolutely. And there's one big thing that I've noticed as far as prorations are on the property taxes, on a reverse purchase mortgage, the lender requires the full fiscal year to be paid up front.
Yeah.
So that is an unexpected cost that the buyer may be anticipating, because generally speaking, we only prorate within the current period. So property taxes generally are only on a quarterly basis, homeowners association on a monthly or quarterly, sewer is on a quarterly, waste management or refuse garbage bills, that's done with the garbage company. But that's the biggest thing that I notice, especially when you're in the beginning of the fiscal year, which starts in July, and having to pay the full year upfront. When the prorations occurred, the buyer had to offset that and credit the seller back. So depending upon where you're purchasing, we had one that was a significant sales price, so it was a significant proration that the buyer was not expecting. So I guess best offer advice is have that discussion and dialogue with your escrow holder, and we could go ahead and clarify that, because each transaction is going to be different. It's unique to its own.
This is a great one. How many people are typically involved in a transaction?
So you have your real estate agent, both of them.
Yes.
Then we have any inspection people that the buyer wants to have. We have your escrow officer, we have an escrow assistant, we have the lender,
Processor,
the processor,
transaction
coordinator. It could go on. We have multiple.
So oftentimes when we say it takes a village, oftentimes
it does.
It takes a village.
Yeah.
That's good to know. I mean, it's good for our audience to understand that it's just not one person handling the whole thing. It's a collaborative group of, trying to make sure that they get their home.
Yeah,
that's right. Yes.
Here's another great question. Let's say, for example, we have someone purchasing a home and their spouse is not going on the loan, but they want to be on title. What's the best way to, address that?
Well, first of all, I would personally, and I'm sure Donna would too, want an addendum adding the spouse as a purchaser, because he or she technically is going to be a purchaser, and we want them to accept all the terms of the contract, all the terms of our escrow instructions. Sometimes the lender doesn't feel that that's necessary, but for protection for everybody, you should always have an addendum and have that all taken care of.
That's great to know.
Yeah. And then she just signs, or he just signs, and we just go around the normal course of close.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So this is a question that just kind of popped in my mind. Can you explain some of the title policies and the extended policies?
In Nevada contracts, at least for Northern Nevada, it's stipulated that either the seller or buyer, but customarily in our county, it's the seller that absorbs the charge for a standard owner's policy. And basically your standard owner's policy is only going to cover liens or defects that are made of record, that are actually recorded down at the courthouse.
Yes.
Now, mind you, we are a title insurance company, so just like any other insurance, there are deductibles and there's also maximum payouts, which could be found in teeny tiny print in the back of our title commitments. But then we also, now each title company has their own name for the extended policy, but it's actually, when it went into effect, into law, I think they introduced it in 97, 98, and it's called a homeowner's policy, not to be confused with the fire insurance policy, because that's also used as homeowner's policy as well, but it provides additional coverage, and it could, just without going into detail, post-forgery, code violations, post-closing fraud, if someone tries to record an erroneous deed or lien or what have you on the property. And again, that is also has its deductibles and its maximum payout. And for that coverage, generally across the board, which I've seen from all of our title companies here, it's 10% of whatever the coverage is for the standard policy. So to make it simple, if the standard policy that your seller is already paying for is $1,000, for $100 that you would pay, one-time charge that stays with you until you sell the home, it gives you additional coverage. And if you contact either myself or Rachel, we have a complete list and breakdown of everything that is covered. Those are your two most common owner's policies. We could go into limited coverage policy, Alta R, Alta Extended, but those are the two most common for the home buyer that we feel gives the best protection. The lender's policy, otherwise known as, the loose term that they were using, is Alta lender's policy. And Alta is just the association that we're governed by, the American Land Title Association. And that title policy is paid for by the buyer during the sale transaction at the close of escrow. That gives your lender protection and ensures that they have first position on the property, second only to the property taxes. So that lender's policy stays in effect until you either refinance or you sell the home.
Well, I appreciate you both being here today.
Okay.
This is a lot of great
Yes.
information.
Thank you for
Enjoyed
having
it.
us.
Yeah, stay tuned for more questions from Title and Escrow. See you soon.
See ya.